Sport for time. No, I'm joking. Hi guys, how's it going? It's I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a Veve Omi. Well, it is a podcast. Um, Vincent Zurzolo is running a little late. He's in that Midtown traffic. If anyone's ever been to Midtown Comics or New York City in general, any big city, you tend to have a lot of traffic, and it's not just up on the street. It's down below on the subways, on the trains, the LIRR. I distinctly remember one time I was heading back from New York City to New Jersey, and we were just getting over a concert, and the train had like halted for a good like 12 minutes. I was like, okay, something's up. And my friends are all like from different parts of the world. They're not, we were at McGuire Air Force Base together, so not from New York. They're like, what happened? And I just like kind of said a matter of factly, like, someone probably just jumped in front of you know, jumped in front of the train. And they're like, what? I was like, oh yeah, like this happens, like not all the time, but enough that it happens. And then they're like, no way. And then this guy that like kind of heard us talking, he's like, wait, someone jumped, in front of the train, like on tracks. And I was like, oh, and before I get the chance to say I don't know, I was like, oh, and he's just like, let's scrape the body off the tracks, let's go. And I was like, oh my God. And my friends are like, oh my God, what is New York? I was like, see, I told you. Anyway, I don't know why he's just on the regular Midtown traffic. Anyway, we will go over a couple of things beforehand. I'll get to the comments first. Grumpy Cat Russell Corey says, let's go, Grumpy Cat. Whoa, what is the Grumpy Cat doing? I wonder if Vincent Zurzolo has the Grumpy Cat. I don't think he does. I mean, I did some Google foo beforehand, just to see like, how he's doing. Oh, hey, he's right here. He's actually quite on time.
Hey guys.
Hey, we were just talking about you. All good things. All good things.
Good.
I don't know if you've ever seen Frozen.
Frozen, the movie Frozen?
Yeah.
In bits and pieces of it.
That was just a reference where they're talking about the big abominable snow monster, and then he comes up right behind him, and Olaf's, hey, we were just talking about you. All good things. So I guess to properly introduce you, everyone, you definitely know him from the new Veve comic that we have just gotten. He is the co-creator and writer of The Addiction, president of Comic Connect and Metropolis Comics, and I think you are not just president, you co-own them, right?
Yeah.
And you had just signed a deal with multi-billion-dollar company Veve. That is the one we just had last month. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I just flew in from Thailand, and boy, are my arms tired. Hey, no, I after New York Comic Con, I needed a little rest because it was like a marathon, more like a sprint marathon. I don't know what you call it, but getting the book ready for New York Comic Con was incredibly challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. And a lot of the great feelings that we had were because of how we were embraced by the Veve family. And it's something I'll never forget. And I can't possibly be appreciative enough of how, let me just put it to you this way. I've been dreaming of this since I was a little kid, to make my own comic book. And 2 weeks running up to the show, I'm sitting at my desk going, what if we set up at a convention and nobody wants to buy our book? I mean, I've walked by guys with booths selling new comic books and nobody's buying them. And I knew we had a great story. I knew we had a very talented team. But you always have this kind of doubt in your mind. And then when we opened the show, we had a line. The line ran over, I would say, at least 35 feet, wrapped around the Metropolis booth, which was really cool. And it lasted for about 4 hours. And really, I mean, we had a lot of traditional comic book fans and customers that came by, but the vast majority was from Veve. And again, everybody out there who's listening, watching, thank you so much for your support. I can't really say it any other way. It's like it really was beyond my wildest dreams. And what was also really wonderful about it is, here we are, we're at the convention. It's me, my partner, David Quinn. Everybody out there knows Mondo Freeman, who is also Andrew, and he's incredible. He's made so many things happen for us. And then our artist and interior artist Claudia Balboni, who flew in from Rome, Italy, and Andres Labrada, who did the Vivi Blue, Vivi Red, and the Grimaldi's cover, came. And then actually all the other cover artists were actually at the convention. They just weren't set up at our booth. They were in Artist Alley downstairs. But Art Germ, David Mack, and Alita Martinez, they were all there. So that was really wonderful. And then we had our two Nickies who were at the booth, Helen and Jules, who were really wonderful at like talking to people and helping with sales. And so we had this incredible positive energy, and it was something that I really felt strongly about. I wanted to have people around us who exuded what we want the comic book to stand for. Now, of course, this is a comic book about addiction in its various forms, everything from love to food to drugs, obviously. But I think it's a positive book, and our character is a positive character. And at its core, I hope I don't sound repetitive. Maybe people have heard this before, but at its core, I believe the addiction is about second chances. Here we have Dr. Nikki Tino, who has dedicated her life to fighting drug addiction. She's gotten so good at it. She's laser focused. Everything else in her life, she's pushed to the wayside. And she's gotten so good at it that the mafia finds out about her and sees what she's doing, and they want to make an example out of her. They kidnap her and they drug her. They shoot her up with a cocktail of drugs, and they leave her for dead. And she goes through what a lifelong junkie or drug addict would go through in one night, and the drugs do kill her. And then the chemicals mix with her blood and bring her back to life. And now she's got a second chance at life to do things differently, and an uncanny ability. From her slightest touch, she can inject any type of drug into a person's body. So that begins the story of the addiction. And we've done some unique things, I think, with the comic book. Being the first digital collectible from Veve was a big deal. I like in my life, I like trying to accomplish things and successfully that have never been done before. And oftentimes, and maybe it's a voice in my head, but I've also heard people like I'll give you, for example, when I was in college and I'd meet a girl and we'd start talking at a party, she'd eventually ask, well, what do you do for work? Because, most of us were working through college.
This is going way back. Okay.
What's that?
This is going way back.
Yeah. Yes. Going way back. Sorry. Yeah. So, they say like, oh, what do you do? And I'd say I sell comic books. And they go, oh, but what do you really do? And I'm like, oh, I sell comics. Can you make a living doing that? Yeah, I do all right. He's like, and if they didn't, they usually walked away at that point. But the point being is that things have changed, and I turned a passion of mine into a business. And so at some point during our talk, I'd love to grab some books out of the safe and show you some really cool Golden Age and Silver Age books. Okay. And also, if anybody's out there on Wednesday, we're gonna have our first show in a very long time on Whatnot. So we're going to have a Whatnot show this Wednesday at 4 p.m. In case anybody's into that type of stuff, we'll have buy it nows, and I'm going to be auctioning a bunch of books, and it should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about comic books and share, a lot with you guys. But going forward, so here we are. We're at the New York Comic Con, and it's Thursday, and we're rocking and rolling. We've got a line around the corner. We're selling tons of great product. The Vivi Reds and Vivi Blues are flying. The CGC graded ones signed by Andres Labrada are going like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And then I find out at noon we're dropping our digital release. And I didn't find out till later that night. I was online at a hotel going into the Veve party. And this guy recognized me. I was like shocked. He's like, hey man, congratulations. I'm like, thanks. I appreciate it. We had a good show. He's like, no, you guys sold out. I'm like, what? You sold out all 7,500 copies in 1 hour. And I was like, holy crap. I didn't know.
I forget what I was doing. I couldn't get it on the drop. I was doing something, and I had to buy it from the secondary. I was like, no.
Well, and that's what's interesting also is that I found out that people were buying them from us at the shows and selling them on eBay for like double and triple what we were selling them for at the shows. So That was really interesting to see, and was exciting to be a part of. And what was really also very important for me was getting feedback from people that they enjoyed the story. And that was really, really nice, because at its core for me, the success of this comic book is all based on, did people like it? Did it do something for them? And I can tell you that the one criticism I've gotten, constructive criticism, but it's criticism that I feel too anytime I read a comic book, is you want more. It goes through so fast. A 24-page comic book, you can go through it in like 10 minutes and you're like, I want the next one. And I know I saw on X a lot of people saying, well, when's the next one coming out? We can talk about that too. But again, thank you everybody out there. I can't thank you enough. This has been such a very, very important chapter or something to check off on my list of things to do. And we have so many more stories to tell. I had a great meeting this morning with my partner David Quinn about finishing, releasing the second and third issues for the first story arc, and then working towards the second story arc, which is going to be really exciting. And we already have an outline for what we're doing. We're going to start scripting, and to me, like that's really a fun part of it for me. I love to buy and sell comic books. That's what I do for a living. And if anybody encountered me at the booth, I hope they saw that I was very engaged and happy to talk about the addiction, as I am here. And then also but to create it, to write it, was really, really exciting for me. And when I had a chance to get away in Thailand, I actually started working on another comic book property idea that I pitched to Dave Yu, and he loved it, which was really cool. And now I'm starting to flesh out the story for that, and I'm going to build a team around that property. And I think it's going to be really fun and exciting. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but it'll be coming. Maybe that'll be our second interview. Yeah. So again, thanks. And by the way, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun just to kind of get. I mean, there's a bunch that we know, but there's also a bunch that we don't know. Like, how long were you working on this for, and when did the opportunity come to be like, oh, could we do this with Veve? Like how did that come about?
Yeah. So
how far into this were you?
Those are great questions. So just to give you some perspective. Oh, wow. Great. You got 2 9/8. That's awesome. Thank you so much for supporting us, and good to see you there. Great smile. Yeah, that's awesome. So, hey, Orange Cat. So I started working on the addiction when I was in my mid-20s. So like half a lifetime ago. I was like, I think it was like 95, 96. I was sitting at a drafting table that I had bought because I wanted to pursue comic book art. And I got to be honest, I love drawing, but I'm not a very naturally talented artist. And it does take a lot of hard work to hone the skills to be an artist of any sort. And I tried it, and I just didn't have the willpower to sit for 6 to 8 hours a day and draw a hand. It's a lot of hard work, and I give people who are comic book artists tremendous amount of credit, because it's not something that's easy. And even if you are talented, taking that talent and being able to convert it into being able to tell a story through sequential art, there's a difference between being a great artist and being able to tell a story. You have to combine those two, and to learn the craft is very it's not easy. So I'm sitting there, and I actually came up with this character. I was having this existential moment where I was thinking, like, why am I here on this earth? What are we here for? What are we doing? And I channeled that into a character. And the addiction actually started out as a male character. He was a detective infiltrating the mafia. He was an undercover narcotics cop.
What was his name? Nicholas Tino?
Nick Otino. Yeah. And he gets found out, and then the same thing happens to him, but he looks rather different than what we ended up doing with Nikki. But he might appear in this universe somewhere. So the addiction universe is Nikki's not the only addiction. So we'll see how that fleshes out in later stories. But he may appear. In fact, if you don't mind me like jumping around a little bit, I can pull out. This is the first piece of art ever done for the addiction from the 90s, and this is Detective Nick Otino, and you can see it's very different looking. This was painted by Joe Phillips at San Diego Comic-Con, probably 1996. Wow. And you can see his face. He doesn't have a mouth. Through the pain and anguish that he went through after he was drugged, he lost his mouth and his hair turned into this kind of smoldering black hair. Wow. And we took that. I brought David Quinn on as my writing partner and co-creator, and we took this concept and we changed it a bit, and we made Nick into Nikki, and we worked together very well to craft a first story and a backstory, and we worked with Aletha Martinez, who did one of our covers, and the cover that you guys may have seen at the convention, this cover is by Aletha Martinez. This is the first cover ever drawn for the addiction. This is from 1997, just to give you some perspective. Wow. And we loved it so much in black and white that we didn't color it. We thought it really looked pretty awesome just as is. And there are certain things on the elements on this cover that haven't taken place in our story yet. You'll notice, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with the camera here.
Yeah, it reverses it.
So if you notice, she's holding a glove in her hand, and
universal protection.
Well, kind of like how Rogue uses gloves, but Nikki basically has these. So I'm a little bit older than most of the people that are watching this, but I remember as a kid there was a song by the Cars called my best friend's girlfriend, and I think that's the song. Hold on. Yeah, I think it's the best friend. Yeah, I think I'm trying to go through the lyrics, and one of the lyrics is she's got nuclear boots and drip dry gloves. And I always wondered what the heck is a drip dry glove. So Nikki's gloves are impossibly white; they can never be stained. So that's one of where does she find them? How does she get them? That'll be another story in and of itself. She doesn't have them yet in our world, but this comic book, it was an idea that I came up with, and I just loved the idea of incorporating things from my life into this comic book. So David and I wrote the story. Aletha drew it, and then I kind of got cold feet, and we didn't go to market with it. And we actually still have the original story drawn and lettered. So that might be an extra somewhere where we'll drop that. There's a lot of interesting parts to it, and I want to give too much away, but in that storyline, Nikki and Enzo can go to this place. It's a bar called Coochie's, and nice. Coochie's is the Nether bar. They're the only living beings that actually can travel to this bar. And it basically looks kind of like an empty lot in Manhattan. And then you go into it, and they go into it. It's kind of almost like they're tripping a bit, and they're into this bar, and everybody in there they're dead celebrities of one kind or another. And
like the ones that died from like overdose, like Amy Winehouse.
It could be anything. Frank Sinatra's in there. You name it. The Roswell aliens are in there because I consider them awesome. It's kind of weird and quirky and funny. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But suffice it to say, what I'm trying to get at is we had this story, we put it to bed. I always thought about the addiction over the decades. Fast forward, we're dealing with the pandemic. There's a lockdown in Manhattan, every day I'm actually still running my business. I was one of the only people in Manhattan who kept their business going. It was me and one of my employees, and everybody else from my company, over 20 people, were working from home. So we were keeping the mail order business going, keeping the business going for like 3 months, just me and one of this guy, Josh. Um, and unfortunately, Josh is no longer with us. Very sad, young guy, and he passed away shortly after the pandemic. Nothing COVID related. But anyway, let me see. So one day I woke up and I'm like, every day in the news, if you touch your face, you're going to die from COVID, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And I said, if my number was up tomorrow, if I was facing my imminent death, what would I have a regret not doing? And immediately the first thing that popped into my head was, I wish I had published a comic book. I picked up the phone, I called David Quinn, and I said, David, I really would like to dust off the addiction and get back to work on it. And I was so happy. He was so enthusiastic about it. And he was just like, yes, let's do it. David and I have always had a very good rapport and working relationship. And we started off saying, we're not going to put any deadlines. We want to really create this as a labor of love and craft it without having to have those kinds of, we must get it done by this time. But after a bit, we said we wanted to bring it to market by 2023. Fast forward, I meet this guy at the San Diego Comic-Con named Dave Yu.
What year?
This is 2 years ago.
2021. Okay.
I think it was 2021.
I was not there that year. I was there.
Might have been 2022.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I have to double check, but it's. So I meet him at San Diego Comic-Con. We're chatting, and he's looking at some books, and he buys some books, and he seems like a really nice guy. And he tells me he runs this thing called Veve, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's a digital app. I'm like, okay, great. He's like, yeah, I run the Marvel booth. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. All right. So fast forward, he flies into New York. He comes by my office. I'm showing him a bunch of vintage comic books, and I look at him and I go, you know, I'm working on a comic book. And he goes, yeah. I said, yeah, it's called The Addiction. And I give him the pitch, and he kind of digs it. And he says, I said, no pressure at all, because I don't like to, like, you know, put any pressure on my clients. I said to him, I said, do you think we could sell this through Veve? And he goes, oh yeah, for sure. I said, really? He goes, yeah, we could probably sell, you know, 7,000 to 10,000 copies. And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. And I said, I'm in if you're in. He says, yeah, I'm in. I shook his hand. And the way I was brought up, if you shake somebody's hand, that's having a signed contract in my brain. Same. So I shook his hand. He said it was cool. I called up Dave. I said, hey, we're going to have a digital comic book. He's like, okay, that's great. Let's keep going. So we decided we were going to come to market at New York Comic Con. And then we had this great idea. So you guys probably are aware of this cover. This is the Grimaldi's cover. And this is the original first cover that we came up with. And I can give you the backstory on this cover. I'd be happy to give you some of the little secrets in this cover. But most importantly, as you see over here, the Grimaldi's logo. So one day I was just thinking, I go, wow, like we could put anything on that pizza box. Because originally it was just an empty box. Like it was a blank box. So I called up Dave. I said, Dave, would you want to do a Veve variant of the Grimaldi's cover? He goes, yeah, that sounds great. And then like we're talking about it. I'm like, how many do you want to do? And he's like, I think we should do like about 1,000 of each. I'm like, great. I'm going into a publishing venture for an independent comic book with a sale of 2,000 comic books. That's in independent comic books. That's pretty darn good. So I'm very excited just about that. And then it's 1,000 comic books. And then he says to me, you know, our color is more blue. Why don't we do a blue version too? And I'm like, okay, how many do you want? He goes, I'll take 1,000 of each. Okay, great. It ended up being a print run of 1,100 of each because they give you an overage sometimes, the printers. And then what ends up happening from there is I'm at the Lake Como Art convention in Italy, Lake Como, Italy, and it's an amazing show. And if anybody out there has the ability to go to it, I highly recommend it. It's just chock full of incredibly talented artists from all over the world. The promoters are fantastic. The area, Lake Como, is gorgeous, and of course you're eating great Italian food every night, and that's
I
awesome.
love Italy. It was so much fun.
Yeah. So I'm at the show and I walk up to an artist I've become incredibly fond of, and I asked him if he'd do a cover for me, and he says, "Well, is this a store variant?" I said, "No, it's a variant for me." And he goes, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." And that was Art Germ.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, wow, we got Art Germ on our book. It's like one of the most popular digital artists and cover artists in the world. And he's such a nice guy, really talented. And what was really great about working with him was we sent him the comic book, and he came up with this concept, and it's spot on. It's great. And it's just, I love it. What's up, Vincent? Thank you for this and getting me the CGC folks to it. Yeah, no problem. That's awesome.
A big help for everyone.
I'm glad to have helped. That's great. You're very welcome. And then while I'm also at Como, I'm friends with this artist who I've known for 25, 30 years. And we've always been friendly at conventions, always chatted. And at the last night of the show, we end up going to dinner together, and we sit next to one another. And I tell him all about the addiction. And I never could have, in my wildest dreams, hoped that he would say the following words. He said to me, "I should do a cover for you." And I was like, "Yes, please." And that was David Mack, who did such an awesome job on this cover. Now, I want to plug our business. This is a business, and to anybody out there who's still looking to buy comic books from us, theaddiction.co. You can buy at theaddiction.co, and we're going to be adding new products to the site very shortly. What I'm showing you guys here are signed copies. We only have 25 of each raw, and we're getting 25 of each graded back from CGC. These are signature series. The CGC ones will be signature series, but they're signed by Andrew Wilson, Mondo Freeman, me, David Quinn, Claudia Balboni, and the ones with Andres Labrada are also signed by him in gold somewhere here. Yeah, here. So you have some choices there. Those are going to be added shortly. And we also have covers that are just signed by me and David, and there's no extra charge for that in case you know that song, Best Friend's Girlfriend. Cool. Yeah, right on. Yeah, man.
We love him.
So you can order them signed by me and David there's no extra charge for that. There's going to be an extra charge for. They're probably going to run about I think $100 a piece, and probably $150 for the addiction, because I don't know the next time I'm going to see Claudia. So getting a cover signed, a comic book signed by the three of us, is really going to be very rare. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about the backstory of the Grimaldi's cover, and I guess it also has an effect on the cover for the Veve Blue and Veve Red. So I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan, and I'd say that something that really inspired me was Reservoir Dogs. And when I talked to Andres Labrada about this cover, I told him that I wanted her in a Reservoir Dogs men's suit with a skinny tie. And I wanted the colors of the cover to be reminiscent, an homage to the posters, the Reservoir Dogs posters, which were red and white and black with the outfit. And he came up with this, just to me, incredibly iconic cover. And we wanted to be serious. We wanted to be cool. We wanted to, what I call for his style, is a manga, American and manga combined. He's quite talented. I really love his art, and I think he's going to be a very big star in comic books. And it's Nikki walking through a New York alley and just beat the crap out of a bunch of guys, toast them up with her touch. And she's enjoying a slice of her favorite pizza while she twirls her hair nonchalantly and moves forward into the evening. Now, there's one other thing that's really cool on this cover. If you'll notice right over here, you can see that it says Rendezvous Dog. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So Rendezvous Dog. What does Rendezvous Dog mean? I was reading an article about 6 months ago where it said, I always wondered, why did the movie Reservoir Dogs, why was it called Reservoir Dogs? And I read this article and it said that when Tarantino was younger, he used to get the word rendezvous and reservoir mixed up. So it makes sense when you think about in that movie, if you know the movie, they all rendezvous back at the warehouse. There's no reservoir anywhere in this movie, so I never understood why it was called that. But what we did here is we put a ghosted sign in the back on the wall, and it says Rendezvous Dog as an homage. You see that, Squirtle? Squirtle.
that was Charmander.
Oh, Charmander.
It's all good. I got told about it here too. Anyway, I love the history of having all of those covers and who signed them and how they came about. Not sure if you've mentioned that on any other podcast before, but some things I was curious.
Yeah, little bits and pieces I have. Yes, absolutely. But I want to really be thorough because I know, this is a very Veve centric audience, and it's important for me like that everybody. I want to share as much as I possibly can about this comic book because I think oftentimes you don't really get to hear the backstories. What were the inspirations behind the comic books? So I want it to be documented. There's definitely enough mystery in this comic book with so many different elements, but there's a lot of things I want to share. So for me, another thing that was really important, Nikki is biracial. She's half Chinese American and half Italian American. And part of the reason I did that was, let me just go back to part of the reason we made Nikki a woman was because, there are tons and tons of male superheroes and characters. And we thought, let's do a female character because I think there's a lot of room for positive role models, female role models in comic books. And I can tell you as a kid, I found Peter Parker, Spider-Man, very inspirational. I got bullied as a little kid. I'm sure most of us out there got picked on in one way or another. And I loved reading Spider-Man because even though he was picked on, he still, in his alter ego as Spider-Man, could kind of fight the good fight and stick up for himself. And he also had to restrain himself when he was Peter Parker and play the nerd, So for me, like having Nikki as a positive role model was very important. Having her as a doctor, fighting drug addiction. She's the daughter of a drug addict. Her family she comes from a broken home. She ended up getting adopted because her father left and the mother was a drug addict. So there's a lot of layers to this, and a lot of elements, and a lot of these different things are elements we brought in that I think are natural and organic to the story. They fit, they make sense, but they also help us to create layers and a realistic, I think, world. You're dealing with a character that has fantastic powers, but we wanted to root this in some type of real kind of world. And look, Nikki was so focused on being a great doctor and fighting drug addiction that she didn't have time for romance. So she has a second chance at life, and she ends up finding Enzo, her boyfriend, her true love. And I wanted this comic book to not be just, hey, I get into a costume and I fight crime. I wanted this to be, she eats, she's in love, she has doubts, and I'm sorry, what was there something there that somebody wrote?
Oh, I was saying David agreed to have deals with a lot of artists. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff on Veve from Decon. There's a bunch of independent artists. So they all want that bread. They all want to.
Yeah, okay. And the reason we made her half Chinese American, half Italian American was we wanted to have a very unique look. We also wanted her to appeal to a lot of people who maybe don't feel like they belong to either world when they're biracial. Some people who are you know half and half of two different cultures sometimes don't feel 100% part of either one of them, and I wanted that to be an element that we'll explore later on, and that's part of Nikki's life, and so I also wanted to be able to utilize two cultures that I'm very fond of. I'm Italian American. I'm the son of immigrants from Italy, from southern Italy, from Calabria, and my heritage is incredibly important to me, and I wanted to incorporate that somehow into the story. And David's daughter is Chinese, and I also thought that having her again half of and half gives a unique look to her, and also adds a lot of other layers. So we have that stuff, and in our story, if anybody's read the first issue, there are she speaks Mandarin, she speaks Italian and English, obviously, and she also speaks a little Spanish. And when I used to read comics as a kid, when somebody spoke another their language, they'd have captions where they translated for you, translated from Russian for Colossus, Tavorish means whatever, or whatever it is. So we don't do that. We want you to Google it, figure it out, go online, go pick up a dictionary, figure out what she's saying, and I think it's really cool because she drops some F-bombs too, and or curses in Spanish, and it's funny, it's cute, and we brought a lot of interesting elements into it in terms of culture, and I thought that was really important because again we're a multicultural society. There's so many. United States is a melting pot, but even around the world, people move around so much that you have people in all different countries that from other parts of the world. And so I thought having her being a little bit international was a good idea. It could be more appealing to people and maybe help break through a barrier of saying, oh, it's another American comic book. Maybe it's not just another American comic book. So if you don't mind, I do want to just again say you can buy our comic books. They're still for sale on the addiction.co, and we'll be adding these signed copies very shortly, and we'll also be adding these super awesome, very limited edition metal covers. You can see the reflectivity. These things are awesome. They were selling really well at the convention, and we only had 4 of them. We didn't do a Veve red or Veve blue, which we might still. Oh, actually, you know what? Those were all scooped up. The Veve blues were scooped up.
There was a metal there. So there was one of 5, and then there was a one of 10. The one of 5s, I know who has them.
Yeah.
The one of 10, those were the metal ones. And do you know who has them? I know I know 4 or 5 people that have them. Do you happen to have a list?
I do know who has them, but I can't really disclose customer information. But what I can tell you is these are still available, and these are $250 a piece. And they sold very well at the convention. The other thing we have on the addiction.co, we'll be adding the metal covers, we'll be adding the signed copies, we'll be adding these really super cool Veve blue and Veve red metal cards.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, these are really cool. And the backs of them have information about the cover artists, and they're numbered. These are to 100.
Wow.
And so we have the Veve blue, we have the Art Germ, we have
any Art Germ metal covers left?
What's that?
Mikhail says any Art Germ metal covers left.
Gone.
They're gone. They're gone. Sorry, Mikhail.
Sorry, man. The Art Germs were really popular. But you know what? You never know, though. There might be 1 or 2 hiding somewhere. But give me a minute. Let me see if I can.
When you sell those, are you going to have people get hey, can I reserve number 79 or 69? Nice. Or number 41?
It's a little tricky to do that. Usually it's just kind of be random. But if you caught me in person or somehow we figured out you have these cards. Awesome. Thanks so much. That's great. And yeah, so this is the David Mack one. And then you have, and these are really inexpensive. These are $12 a piece. And, or I think we'll have this on the website too for 20. And this is the Grimaldi's cover.
Oh, sweet.
So we have them, and they're just, it's just I was never into cards that much. I mean, I've collected cards back and forth here and there. I'm more of a comic guy, but these cards are really cool there, and they've got such great heft to them, great weight to them. We'll be adding those to the site shortly, and we're also going to be adding these to the site. I found a few copies that didn't get picked up at the convention of the Veve Blue, and we're going to have actually more down the line of the Veve Blues, I hope. They're supposed to be getting done at CGC, but we have the Veve Reds. These are going to all be added to the site. Give us about a week to add this stuff. But right now, what you can order on the site are the trade comics, the regular variants, and the virgins. But yeah, and if you want the regulars signed, you can get that too. But we'll be adding more stuff, and the prints are really nice. The prints are basically all the covers, varieties. Each one is a different cover, and those are really cool as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on. One of the most exciting things that happened for us at at New York Comic Con was I had 3 different people from the entertainment world saw the lines that we had and saw the excitement and heard about the sellout on the digital comic, and they're interested in the property, the IP, to possibly make a movie or television show, maybe animation. I don't know. These are the very beginning stages, and let me give you guys a little insight from someone. Even though I'm in the comic book business, I have been slightly in different ways part of the entertainment world. So to give you some perspective, back in the early 2000s, my partner Stephen Fischler at Metropolis, he and I created a production company, and we pitched AMC a stop motion animation sketch comedy show, and they bought it on our first pitch. And that show is called The Wrong Coast, and it aired in Canada on one of their sister stations. So we produced a television show, but we thought, oh, wow, this isn't so hard. Goodbye comic books, hello Hollywood. But it really is very difficult. We got very, very fortunate to sell something on our first pitch. And my point with that is I'm trying to temper any expectations from the Veve family. I know we'd all love to see a movie or a TV show or an animated series, and the addiction definitely lends itself to that type of storytelling, and especially episodic, I believe, for a television show or a Netflix series or HBO Max or something. I don't know, something like that. And I would definitely think it would be a really cool animated series. But what I'm trying to get at is, these are things that take a long time, and even though you have people talking to you about it, going from that germ of the idea, hey, we're interested in, to actually putting into production is very difficult. I liken it to the story, Michael Uslan, who's a friend of mine. He's the executive producer on all the Batman movies since 1989. And he told me when he bought the license to Batman shortly after the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves came out, he thought, hey, I'm going to be able to tell the Batman story I've always dreamed of. And that was in like the 70s. And he was getting nowhere. He had so many rejections. The idea of doing a serious Batman movie when the comedic, campy television show was the thing that really stuck in people's minds, he was getting so many no's. And one day, he tells me this story. One day he's on a bus going back to New Jersey. He had just pitched the whole day and gotten a bunch of rejections. And he opened up the newspaper and he was looking at the movie section. And there were 2 movies that premiered that weekend. One was Empire Strikes Back, and the other one was The Shining. And they had the picture of Jack Nicholson sticking his head through the door. Here's Johnny. And Michael looks at that and he goes, oh my God. He gets home, he tears it out, he colors in with whiteout Jack Nicholson's face, puts the red lips on him, and he goes, that's my Joker.
Wow. I never knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah. So you take that story and you realize that's 1982. And even they pitched Jack, they got him on board. It still took another 7 years for that movie to come out in 1989 with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, and it's just Jerry Hall. It's just a great movie. So my whole idea here is, guys, I don't want you thinking next week we're going to see a movie or TV show, but I'm very goal oriented when it comes to projects I'm working on. And again, it's the type of thing where I have a bunch of friends who've been publishing comic books for 20, 30 years, and most of them have not ever sold, have never gotten their property into production. I don't believe that those rules work for me. I would love to see something, and I'm going to work very hard towards that. But the foundation of this is going to be great comic book stories, fun comic book stories, and entertaining comic book stories. And comic book stories, hopefully that'll make you think and maybe inspire. That would be awesome. So, yeah, that's where we're headed. That's what we're trying to do. I'm sorry, by the way, Randy. I can talk forever about this stuff. I'm very passionate.
Oh, that's fine. I got a 12-hour stream coming on tomorrow, so I need to save the voice.
What's that?
I have a 12-hour stream tomorrow that I have to do, so I really need to save my voice for it. So it's a pleasure that you've been talking.
Have some Ricola. Have some Ricola. The cough drops.
Yeah, I need that. Also, I've been like ghettoing it. I just have honey, so like every 40 minutes,
Yeah, I would mix that with some lemon juice and hot water, and just sip on that all day long. What's that?
I said that's a good idea.
Yeah.
There's the. So I've told my audience about the delays that Hollywood sometimes has. I was supposed to start 2 movies this year, and they are delayed until next year, partly because of the writer's strike, but also partly because that just, that's what happens. Delays. So, a lot of people on Veve, kind of the first time investors and the first time investing in tech in general, and obviously with tech that takes a while. So I know that you're just planning a couple of things. We have Derek Brad saying, when collectible versions of the addiction characters so I can take photos of them in AR.
When collectible versions? What do you mean?
Yeah, so when are we going to have a Nicky Tino collectible on Veve? That
like a 3D sculpture, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We started talking
about that.
I started talking to several sculptors. So hopefully we'll see something soon. One step at a time. Andrew Mondo already worked on one, and David really liked it. So we'll see. Maybe that's part of it.
That would be great. So we met at I don't think it was the first party we met at. I think it was Sanjay's party, the gold and silver logo party.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so that's where you kind of got to meet a lot of the people that have the gold and silver logo. How much time have you spent on the app? I know you're insanely busy.
I spent a little bit of time on the app. It's really interesting to see all the different comic books that they have. And like my first introduction to Veve, I was at you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Oh yeah.
So Gary had this thing called VCon, and he asked us to be a part of it as representing comic books there, and that was really cool. We were very flattered, and we flew out to Minnesota. He rented out Viking Stadium, which was really cool.
Every year. What year was this?
That was last year.
Oh yeah, I was there. I definitely saw you because there was I was there with my friend Greg and Juan. I was hired to go out there to go and this one guy's a big investor in Veve and Omi, and he says like, hey, Gary Vaynerchuk's a beast, and I want to learn about his projects. He hasn't mentioned Recur in a while, but I know he has V-Friends. Just go out there, absorb everything, and report back. I was like, okay, cool. And we spent a good amount of time at that booth. I think there was comics on one side, and then there was cards on the other. There was a bunch of Pokemon cards. I remember seeing a trophy Kangaskhan and telling my friends, like, listen, I just sold this card for like $279,000 last year, and we can get it right here for 175. Let's get it right now. And they're like, that's a lot. But I definitely saw you there.
Yeah, we had a really fun booth, and my introduction to Veve was somebody walked up to me and saw I had a Daredevil Comics #1 on my wall, and said, "Wow, I have one of those." And I said, "Oh, cool, that's great. I'm meeting comic book collector here." He's like, "You want to see it?" So he picks up his phone, and I think he's going to show me a photo of him holding his physical comic book, and he opens up the app, and I look at it and go, "Wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's pretty darn cool." And then he starts showing me how you can flip the pages and everything. And I was just like, this is something else. I was really impressed with it. And I love the idea about, so when I think about why digital comic books could be appealing to people, number one, if you don't have the space for boxes of comic books, it's perfect. It all lives on your phone. If you're an international, if you live outside the United States, it's very expensive to have comic books shipped to you. So that could be another thing. You have digital comic book, there's no shipping involved. And then, I think it's also, generationally speaking, and enjoying and being immersed in new tech, I think also makes this such an appealing idea and property. And also it is an investment, or an investable, if you want to call it a collectible investment. What's that?
Sorry,
Yeah. So I really, I wasn't like one of those snooty traditionalists. No, it's got to be a print comic book and blah blah blah. I don't like that. Like, I have friends that are my age who shit all over modern music, contemporary music, and contemporary actors and contemporary society, and I'm like, no, you're starting to sound like how our
okay,
parents
boomer.
go, in my day it was better, and blah blah blah. And I mean, I listen to these guys saying the music today stinks, and there's so much great music today, and there's so many great actors, and there's so many great movies. But it's generational, it's different, and so, and things change and evolve, and this is part of that. And that's why I really love Veve. I think it really appeals to so many people in different ways. And what is so impressive, beyond the actual products that you're buying, your comic books or digital collectibles, is the community that's just come up out of nowhere. It is amazing. I think it's like taking the regular comic book community, multiplying it by 50, maybe 100. The people are so passionate, and so, and what I loved about it was everyone we met was like happy and positive, and that's really nice to be around. So I don't know if that's like a mandate, like you must all be happy, you must all drink the Kool-Aid. I don't know what it is, but I love it, and keep it up. It's great. And when I see people at conventions, they have these smiles on their faces, that makes me happy. I feed off that. It makes you want to be work that much harder to make a great comic book. And uh, and by the way, anybody out there, if you don't like the comic book, we'd like to know why as well. So that's important. But we've gotten mostly, I mean, we've gotten really good feedback. Sometimes maybe the art isn't for you, and that's understandable, or that you don't like the story. That's okay. But I promise you all that we went through great pains to try to bring a story we thought would resonate with people, and it was really important to us. We wanted to have elements of intrigue, suspense, keep you guessing. We wanted to have a romance in there. We wanted to have comedy, and there's a joke running through the first issue. And if you've read it, I hope you got like a kick out of it and realized, oh, this is how it ties in. That joke in the beginning that, as Nikki calls it, her boyfriend Enzo likes to tell like moldy old jokes, and kind of like groany type of jokes, or dad jokes maybe.
Dad jokes.
So Yeah, we're rocking and rolling and having fun with this. I know there were people who had questions about issue number 2, and I want to address that. But before I do, I want to do another plug.
Okay.
And if you order today, theaddiction.co, you can get great comic books for your collection on theaddiction.co. We're gonna be adding prints, metal cards, metal covers, signature books, and the CGC graded books to the site very shortly. Just bear with us. We're juggling so many things here, and so we'll have that added up soon. And we're also going to be opening up for international orders on hope. We're shooting for November 10th. So please bear with us. Yeah, please bear with us. There's a lot of challenges with the website and the API for charging for shipping, and I don't want to get into the minutia of it all, but trust me, we are working on this. So cool. Where were we?
There's a bunch of things I want to go over in that blurb. One is the mentioning like the Veve community, and did you have to be super happy to be part of it? What you saw was the gold and silver logo community, which is those are the ones that are here to stay. Those are the ones that are there. There's no talk about the price of Omi or the price of comics. It's just, hey, we really like this. This is our chance to hang out with David and Dan multiple times a year. And I can't tell exactly how many, what the ratio is of men to women. On YouTube, it's skewed because YouTube is just mostly male dominated anyway. So the 98% of people that view me are male, but it's on a male dominated website, so that's hard. But on the analytics of those males, a lot of them are 35 to 45. Those are like, that's the big chunk. And on the golden logo group, like they love you. We were just talking about you beforehand. Typically in order to, they want you to come in, but in order to be a part of that, you need a gold and silver logo. So I'll
work on that.
I'll do our plug here. It's like $5,500. So you have
to... oh wow, okay, that's cool.
But yeah, that's, I mean, as obviously the fans are really crazy, but in the grand scheme of it, nobody knows what Veve is yet, and when they will, or when they do,
it's growing, and we're gonna be a part of that because through my company's Metropolis, which is the world's largest dealership for vintage comic books, and through Comic Connect, the premier online auction site for vintage comics and collectibles, we're promoting the comic books. We're promoting Veve, and we're going to be adding Addiction comic books to one of our upcoming auctions. Yeah, and that is, I noticed that. Absolutely. I'm reading what people are writing, and that's great. I loved being around everybody too. It was just it was in the happiness and positivity was genuinely infectious, and I really I just, again, I can't thank everybody out there enough for welcoming us, and I also want to thank Andrew Mondo so very much for everything he did to help us become part of the community, because he really spearheaded that. And I remember one day he came into me, he said, I've been involved in social media for a long time. I've never seen anything quite like this. And I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, I knew he wasn't blowing smoke up my butt, so I was really impressed.
Yeah, there's not a lot. The only other time I've ever been someplace or part of something that had this type of camaraderie was really the military.
Wow.
Outside of that, there's nothing really. I somebody tell me that I think they grew up in like Texas or somewhere in the South, and they played high school football, and then high school football down there is like life. And they said that's like the only other time they've had this type of feeling where we're all in this together.
Yeah. Let me see. What else can I tell you? Oh, issue number 2. There were yeah, we love Andrew. Yes, Mondo. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Issue number 2. People have been asking when that's coming out. We're going to be meeting. I met with my partner David Quinn this morning. We fleshed out some concepts and ideas on how we're going to do that, and I also talked to Dave Yu a little bit about it. We're going to have a follow-up conversation next week and I'll try to flesh out a strategy. Now, the first story arc is 3 issues, and we have some great covers for issue number 2. Amanda Conner, if anybody's familiar with Amanda Conner, and Jimmy Palmiotti, they're very, very popular, famous comic book artists that did a cover that I think is very unique and very different from our first slate of covers. Andres Labrada is back for issue number 2. He did a beautiful cover. Yes, he does work really hard on social media. Yeah. That's awesome. Yes. And we also, I love working with established comic book artists, but I want to find somebody new. So I'm at C2E2 in Chicago. It's a big convention in Chicago. And I walked the entire artist alley. And I walk up to this guy's booth and he's got all these prints up on his wall. And they're kind of like these manga anime type cute girls eating. What's that?
I said, okay.
Yeah, I mean, cute girls with that kind of look, that kind of anime look, and they're all eating foods, but in a very sexy way. And one of them is like this little shark girl, and I just could not stop looking at this shark girl. And I walk up to the artist and I go, "I love your art. I think it's really fantastic." And he says, "Thanks." I said, "What's your name?" And he goes, "My name is Robot Cat." And I went, "You're hired." I was like, that's it. So Robot Cat, this guy, I asked him, I said, "Have you ever worked on comic books?" And he's like, "No, I don't really like the idea of having to do sequential art and stories and stuff like that. I really like working on my prints." And I go, "Okay," so, but that's not what I was talking about. I said, "Have you ever done a cover?" And he goes, "No, but I'd be open to it." I was like, "Great." So we started working on a cover idea. And the cover that he did introduces it's the cover with 2 of our villains that will be premiering in issue number 2. So I can give you guys a little background on them. Our main villain for issue number 2 is Mr. Licorice. He's a candy-coated super criminal. All of his crimes, all of his weapons are candy themed. I was inspired to create him based on my 3 favorite rogues galleries of villains. I think the 3 best are Spider-Man, Batman, and the Flash. And I kind of wanted to make a character that was reminiscent of the Batman TV show of the 60s, but also had elements of different characters from Marvel, from Spider-Man, from Flash, and DC, and Batman. So Mr. Licorice is a character that I absolutely love. I created him back in the 90s. He was originally called the Twizzler, but we couldn't use Twizzler because for obvious reasons. So we called him Mr. Licorice. Mr. Licorice is kind of weird and funny and quirky, but he's very deadly. He's a hitman for the mob, and he does things his own way. He was a candy creator. He worked for a candy company, and he got fired. He's trying to create a super soldier serum called Man Candy, and he gets fired and decides to dedicate his life to crime. His sidekick pal is Bette Noir, and she's kind of an aspiring social media starlet. She says, "How can I get more followers? I'll team up with a supervillain, and that should get me more followers." And she's quite a character. She's kind of like an anime girl herself. She was originally called her original name was Tiffany, and she was called the Spoiler. So she's an interesting character, but so there's going to be an evolution of this villain somewhere down the road. But we introduced them in issue number 2. And I think you guys are going to get a really big kick out of them. So we have right now we have 3 cover artists. We have Amanda Conner, Andres Labrada, and Robot Cat for issue number 2. We are finishing off issue number 3 as well. The color work is being done on that, and Brad Simpson, our colorist, who's unfortunately wasn't at New York Comic Con, absolutely incredibly talented colorist, a veteran colorist in the comic book world. And I shouldn't leave out Dave Sharp. Dave Sharp did the lettering for us. And I think if you look at the comic book and really focus on the lettering, you're going to see there was a lot of attention put into the lettering by me and David Quinn, and explaining to Dave Sharp what we wanted out of it. By the way, if you'll notice, there are a lot of Daves on this project. We've got David Quinn, we've got Dave Sharp, we almost had another David, and we also have Dave Yu. So there's a lot of Daves there. So I don't know, take it for what it's worth. It's pretty funny. You know, a lot of you were maybe at New York Comic Con didn't get a chance to see. But if you don't mind, Randy, I can grab a portfolio. I can show you, give you guys a sneak peek at Mr. Licorice if you'd like.
Oh yeah, go. I want to see what this dude looks like.
Yeah, sure. So
it'll be red. Yeah, red. Could be black.
Brought this portfolio to New York Comic Con, and we also, the Grimaldi's Pizzeria. That's a real pizzeria in New York City. And if you went into Grimaldi's during the con and you ordered the Addiction Special, which was pepperoni, mushrooms, and truffle oil, you got a collectible QR code that allowed you to read digitally some of the comic book. Yeah, this was the poster. My wife designed this based off Labrada Grimaldi's cover. And you'll see it says, New York's got a new superhero and she loves Grimaldi's. Order the Addiction Special Pie and get a sneak peek at the Addiction #1 comic book. So that's pretty cool.
I had two friends go there and they ordered the pie, but they ordered it like the day before it started.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, we missed it.
Yeah. Hold on, guys. I'm going to grab this piece of art. And by the way, every comic book has a food tie-in. So issue #2 will be tied in with a really fantastic company called Mila, Mila. What's the guy's name who starred in Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu movie from Marvel? Simu Liu.
Oh yeah.
He's a spokesman. He actually bought into the company because his parents loved the soup dumplings, and so they're frozen soup dumplings that they ship all over the country. I thought it would be a great idea, since Nikki's half Chinese American. There's a scene where she teaches her boyfriend how to eat soup dumplings. And so that's going to be the Mila connection, and we'll have a promotion with Mila, which it's really going to be fun. But I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at, hold on a second. Yeah, here's a good page. You can see. Here you go. Here's Mr. Licorice.
Oh, all right. I like it.
And Bete Noir is right above him in the panel above him. And they basically have
so he was a candy man beforehand?
He was a candy creator.
Candy creator. Okay. So when I thought of like candy creator, I think, oh, the candy man I wasn't thinking like Cruella de Vil. Like he's got a very good outfit on.
He's got a candy cane jumpsuit, disco kind of one. Yeah.
I'd wear it.
His hair is red. He's got this giant plume of hair. He's also deadly. He's kind of invented his own martial art, which is kind of based on Savate. Savate is a French kickboxing with very, very strong kicks, and he's kind of this tall, lanky guy. Bet's hair is blue, kind of cotton candy blue.
I love characters that develop their own martial arts. Like you have Spider-Man that knows the way of the spider, and then you have Howard the Duck that knows Duck Fu. All of these different cool martial artists, like, oh, I want to learn them.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fun stuff in here. I was talking. I'll show you guys something really cool. So this is actually, if I can grab it out of here, this is an original, the first drawing ever of Mr. Licorice, but he was called the Twizzler. And this is by Louis Small Jr. And if you look at the date there, it's 1996. And that was the original drawing of the Twizzler, Mr. Licorice. So that's kind of cool. It's a little piece of addiction history. I've also got in here, hold on a second. I can show you guys the first drawing I ever did. I think it's in here. Yeah, this is the first drawing I ever did. of the addiction. That's him, and there's the whole origin is right there. And yeah, as I said, I'm not the greatest artist, but I gave it a shot. And then here's a follow-up pictures of the addiction here. I think I got that in the frame. Yeah. So you have let me see. Oh, and this was a piece that that Tim Vigil is a really great comic book artist, did of the original Addiction, his version, which I think is pretty cool.
That's pretty dope. Yeah, it's almost like his head is like still on fire. Almost
Yeah,
like it's
yeah. So in the original story, they not only drug him, but they blow his head off.
Oh,
And that's
hardcore.
Yeah. So
I promise this is a decent segue, but you have to follow me for a second. There was one time several months ago when I was on the Lucy, and I love Marvel, and I'm pretty sure you do too. And the shows that they have that they've done this with is She-Hulk and Moon Knight, and it's supposed to be was supposed to be Daredevil Born Again until they shelved that, but they might do it with Echo. Is that in those shows you'll have various episodes where you have a QR code that you can go and scan it, and it brings you to the Marvel Unlimited app. And I had this idea that they could do something like that for Veve eventually. But when you eventually do have like a show or like a movie, will you have a QR code to get to that'll go to Veve? That'll be like, oh, get your addiction comic here.
I never even thought about that, and I never noticed that on any of the shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I'd love to incorporate stuff like that. I always want to like push the envelope and do things a little differently. Like, as far as I know, this is the first time in the history of comics that we've ever launched, that anybody's ever launched a comic book in conjunction with a restaurant, New York City pizzeria, an iconic New York City pizzeria. So that was a first. The first digital comic book. That's a first. And as far as I can tell, and I pitched this to a bunch of publishers, none of which ever said yes to publishing this book. That's why we published it ourselves. And so none of them ever saw a character with these powers. So for me, the reason I came up with this idea for these powers, I'm always interested in the idea of taking a power that could, I think, if you first hear about these powers, you can drug people, you'd think that was a bad guy. And this is a character that fights drugs with drugs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try to utilize something like that. And hopefully people, again, I really hope this resonates with people out there. And I want people to read this comic book, to remember it. I want them to think of these covers as iconic covers that are memorable. And I really do think the Veve blue and the Veve red, these are iconic covers. These are like, you see these, if these were on a newsstand, if comic books were still in newsstands, these would stand out to you.
Yeah. Vibrant.
The name of that website is theaddiction.co. Again, for those of you who are kind of slow, theaddiction.co. Yeah, theaddiction.co. We went with CO because they wanted a lot of money for .com, and we kind of thought, hey, one less letter for people to remember, and it's also Columbia, and like that's so, and Columbia is kind of resonates with certain things, and so it's theaddiction.co. We're still working on the site, but it's functional for business right now, for commerce. And we will be adding products. Now that I'm back from Thailand, we'll be adding products. Let me tell you guys a couple of cool stories.
Oh, yeah. I love you.
So I did some promotional stuff, which I posted on X, that the addiction made it to Thailand. I brought some copies with me, and I wanted to give a couple of copies to friends of mine that I was traveling with, as kind of like a gift, and just saying, hey, check out my comic book. And they're comic book collectors, so that was cool. So that was really fun. But okay, so I'm in Hong Kong at the business lounge waiting 7 hours for my connecting flight. And I meet these two gentlemen from South Africa, and they're really nice guys. And one of them keeps telling me I should come visit him in South Africa. He'll put me up, and he's, it seems like a very sincere and nice guy, very proud of his country, and also a very successful guy. So we're chatting, and they're asking me about what I do, and I buy and sell comic books, and I explain to them I'm the first person who ever sold a comic book for $1 million. And it's just I don't say that just to brag about it or anything like that, but it's more like people just don't know about comic books, and they don't know the vintage market. They don't understand that Veve digital comic books sell for a lot of money too, and they don't know any of this stuff. So once I say it like that, they get it, and they go, "Oh, this guy's serious." So okay, so I tell them the first comic I sold the first comic book for $1 million, 1.1, 1.5, 1.75, 2.2, 3.2, 4.7, and so on and so forth, and tons of stuff in between there. And basically, we're chatting and we're going back and forth. They're telling me about what they do, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a guy walk up to me, and he goes, "I'm really sorry for eavesdropping, but I couldn't believe I was sitting next to the owner of Metropolis." And now I'm turning like red and like kind of like a little embarrassed. I was like, "What? What's going on here?" And the two South African guys are like, "Oh, are we sitting with royalty?" You know, and so we all start laughing. And he's like, "No, I know who you are. I'm in the antiques business." And I was like, "How do you know me?" He's like, "Well, and you know, if you're in the antiques business and you pay attention to other collectibles, you're going to see I've seen your name come up. I know who you are. It's really nice to meet you." And I give him an addiction postcard, and he walks off, and he's like, "I'm going to tell my friend." And it was funny because his friend actually follows me on Instagram and pinged me the next day. He's like, "Now I know why my friend saw you. You were on vacation in Thailand. He was in Hong Kong in business." And so this guy walks away, and I figure I had 2 copies left of my comic book. I said to the 2 guys from South Africa, I said, "Hey guys, it's really nice that you're inviting me to South Africa, and I just wanted to give you a copy of my comic book as a gift." And the guy gets up and he goes, "You know, gifts are nice, but I'd like to buy it instead." And he just hands me a wad of cash. And I'm like, "Dude, no, it's a gift. It's okay." And his friend's like, "No, just let him do this." And I'm like holding. He says, "Let me give you some Mandelas." And you know, that's and Nelson Mandela is on money in South Africa. So I'm like, I know it's okay. These are gifts." And he's like, "No, just take it." And so I'm holding this wad of beautiful money. By the way, it's really colorful. And he says, it's like 20 Mandelas to the dollar. And he's like, he starts showing me, and I'm like, "There's like $200 there." It was really nice of this guy. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just a weird situation, but another story like that, that's really cool. And it's part of the addiction lore now. And we're going to build from here. And I'll never forget the experience at New York Comic Con with the Veve community, and I'm never going to forget that crazy business lounge meeting. That was really wild.
That's wild that he's carrying around 4,000 Mandelas. Just like,
yeah, it was like, what is he? It's like $200. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And it's like he just handed me this to take this. Yeah, and our airports are really interesting. I've met some really good friends in airports. Met some celebrities in airports. I'll tell you a really cool airport story. Check this one out. So one of my clients is a billionaire, and he was out in LA, and he was hanging out with Jay-Z. And he calls me in New York and says, "Hey, could you do me a favor and bring out some of my books to LA? I want to show them to Jay-Z, and bring some stuff, some better stuff you have. Maybe I can give him a gift. You know, I'll buy something from you to give to Jay-Z." Okay, I'll hop on a plane to LA. Why not? So I go out there, I bring them stuff, and as it turns out, I spent a few days there. I buy a couple of big collections, and end up hanging out with my client and a friend of his. And this guy is his name is James, and he starts mentioning his brother Seal. I'm like, "There's only one Seal." So this guy was Seal, the singer, Seal, his brother. And it turns out James is actually a director, and he directed a movie on Netflix. I'm forgetting the name of it. It was a Western with African American. All the characters were African American, and even had used hip hop music in it, which was kind of cool for a Western movie. The name is on the tip of my tongue, but anyway, that's not the whole story. I leave after the weekend. I get to the airport and I see Larry King.
Oh, cool.
Going onto my plane, and I'm sitting right behind him, and I go, "How often am I going to meet Larry King? I'm going to go introduce myself. Hi, Mr. King. My name is Vincent. I used to have a radio show, which I did called ComicZoneRadio.com, and for 5 years, a weekly show. And I learned a lot from you, watching you and listening to you over the years in terms of how you interview people. And I just wanted to say hello." And he's like, as soon as he hears comic books, he's like, "I love comic books." I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm friends with Stan Lee and Bob Kane, the creator of Batman." And I said, "Do you want to see some cool books?" He's like, "Sure." So I go into my bag and I'm carrying like some very expensive comic books, and I pull out like a Batman #1 and Superman, and he's looking at them and he's going, "I think I had one of this one." And Larry King tells me that he goes, "You want to hear a sad story?" And I go, "Okay, I want to hear any story Larry King wants to tell me." So sure. And he says, "I'm a little boy, and my father always told me never talk to strangers. One day I'm sitting on my stoop in East New York, I think it was Brownsville or East New York, on my stoop of a building I lived in. And this man pulls up in a car, gets out of the car, goes to the trunk of the car, opens up the trunk of the car. And he goes, 'Hey, kid, come here.' And I freeze because I don't know what to do. And he goes, 'Hey, kid, come here.' So I get up and I walk over to the back of his car, and he opens up the trunk and he pulls out a stack of comic books. This is the 1940s. Hands it to this kid. He said, 'I told my son if he didn't behave, I was going to give his comic books away. Here you go.' Gives a stack of comic books to young Larry King. Larry King runs up the stairs to his house, his apartment, and he's sitting there the whole day reading his comic books. His dad comes home from work, and he says, 'Oh, wow, where'd you get these comic books?' And Larry King tells his dad the story. The dad looks at him and he goes, grabs the stack of comic books, goes over to the fireplace and throws them into the fireplace. He turns around, he looks at him and says, 'I told you never talk to strangers.'"
Oh,
All his golden age comic
oh.
books. So yes, airports are an interesting place to meet people for sure.
I guess the modern version of that is my friends. When I used to sell Pokemon cards, my friends would be like, "Oh, I had a bunch of great Pokemon cards before my mom threw them out." I was like, "Oh, I've heard that story
Yeah.
so many times."
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't for moms, I probably wouldn't have a business.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So speaking of high value and high end comics, my friend Jeremy is looking to purchase a low grade Action Comics #1. Do you happen to have an extra one that you're looking to sell?
I have a list of people waiting for that book. It's very difficult to get in low grade. A low grade copy recently sold for 400,000.
It doesn't have to be super low grade. It could be medium low grade.
Yeah, you're probably talking about like an easy $1 million.
You might know him, Jeremy Padower. He was one of the advisors for Akomi on the Omi token.
I don't know him, but I'd love to get in touch with him. I think did he post that on X?
He posted on X.
Yeah. I reached out to him. He never got back to me.
All right,
No, on LinkedIn. He posted on LinkedIn.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll ping him and be like, "Hey."
Yeah. Let him know. I said, "Hey, please contact me," and didn't hear from him, so I don't know if he already got one or it wasn't.
I don't think he did. My other friend Rashid, I don't know how much I can say about this. So Rashid, he owns Speedy Comics. Do you know there? Okay, he's got it's like the biggest pop con event in the Middle East. Is over in Dubai, and he's got 2 Action Comics #1s. One is signed and one is restored, I think. So I asked him about it, and he's like, "I really don't want to sell any of these." Like, oh, what are some of the high ender stuff that you want to keep now, or are you looking to buy? In Pokemon, you had highs and lows. Right now, is it a good time to buy, or is it a good time to take?
So I believe there's always opportunities in the market. You obviously, I'm sure you know from Pokemon, we had a spike in prices from 2020 to 2022 because of the pandemic and people being stuck in their homes and really focusing on comic books. And then you had inflation happen. Um, yes, you should get more addiction. I don't know what the propaganda comics are, but
Oh, it's from Ron English. Ron
oh,
English has he's got a really weird comic. It's just like a clown and yeah, so
okay.
I don't like clowns. So.
So where was I? What was I just talking about?
Talking about I forget. Oh God, I'm so old. I don't know. I forget.
What was I just talking about, guys? Anybody out there?
Always opportunities in the market.
Yes,
And
yes. So and now you've had the market kind of go down a bit, especially with modern to Silver Age comic books, but not everything. Um, and so I think there are a lot of opportunities because I've been in the comic book business since I'm 15, 52 now, so 37 years. I've seen peaks and valleys, and what ends up happening is so you'll have these peaks, then valleys, but the next time it comes up, it goes higher. And so I think now is a great opportunity. The places that haven't really been affected are incredibly rare, incredibly high grade, golden age keys. Action Comics #1 is one of them. Detective Comics 27, and if you'd like, what if you can hold on a second, I'm going to pull a couple of books for you guys. I'm sorry I don't have them ready for you.
okie doke. No, that's fine.
We can keep talking.
Gotta love the
I'll
Pokemon.
also give you a little tour around my office and show you some cool stuff.
Okay.
Dig. But just bear with me 1 second.
Of course. I will continue talking because that's what I do. I'll introduce you to that guy Rashid. He's doing I don't know if you'd want to go to Dubai, but he's got I think a couple more spaces open. That'll be in February. David and Dan are gonna probably stop by. I don't think they're gonna have a full booth there. At least that's what he said on the stream last week. I don't have a ton of experience buying or selling comics. I mean, I love the Secret Wars. I think Jonathan Hickman and the New Avengers and Young Avengers. In my opinion, he's a god, and I love his storytelling. I love that the way that they express things. Some of the ones that I like that they're really just not popular characters. I like Jeff the Land Shark. I think he's really cool. I like Squirrel Girl. I have a bunch of Squirrel Girl on Veve. I don't know if you can hear me, so we're gonna go on the breakout and MC1. I don't know if we'll do that or not. Question for Vincent outside the dish. Oh, okay, that's gonna be a question for him. Oh, that's gonna be a good one too. A lot of things that we nerd out about. Like for example, I don't typically like Psyduck is not a big powerful Pokemon. Okay, there you are.
My personal favorite comic book. Somebody just asked a question. My personal favorite comic book of all time, regardless of price importance.
I'm gonna take a guess at this. It's gonna be Ghost Rider.
Sorry?
I'm gonna take a guess and say it's Ghost Rider.
Well, I do like Ghost Rider, but no, it's not Ghost Rider. My favorite character, hands down, is this guy, Spider-Man.
Oh, Spidey.
And the origin.
Is that an 8.0?
Yeah. Just yeah, I got an 8.0, and yeah, so.
Oh my God.
You can see the price there.
Well, that's not how much it is now. That's how much you paid for it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. How long ago was this? What year did you buy that?
This book is a couple of years that I've had it.
Okay. I imagine now it's probably worth it's a high grade. Probably
So Spider-Man's my favorite character. Great power comes great responsibility. And it's just it's a classic cover. Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko. The colors are amazing. I always loved the way that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, cracked wise while he was fighting the bad guys. I loved his powers. The idea of swinging through New York City is so cool on a spider's web, having the proportionate strength of a spider. I love Spider-Man. So this is the first appearance of Spider-Man ever in a comic book. And I'm going to show you a couple of other cool books.
There's a whole group of people that like on Veve, like on Telegram, that they all have 15s. On Veve they have it, but it's probably the best book I think on Veve.
And this is a Spider-Man #1, 7.0. Really nice copy. Sorry about the reflection there. I'm not really sure how to get rid of that with.
No, it's fine. Oh my god.
So this is cool. We'll work for high grade slab day at 15.
I work for a low. Like what? What do you need? Oh my god, that's. Oof.
I got more. I got some double vision coming up right now. Two for the price of one. Well, not quite, but boom, Batman #1.
Oh, you got one at a 6.5. That's. Oh, that's a 4.5. 4.5.
Yeah,
That's still
so
really great.
Batman #1, really cool book. First appearance of the Joker, first appearance of Catwoman. Iconic cover, and you got the pinup in the back. I love Batman #1. It's just, you see that cover and you just, man, you just.
So, in order to defend your preciouses, I don't know if that's a word. How many semi-automatic weapons do you have in your house to defend your castle?
Well,
I would be armed to the teeth if I had those.
This is not my home. This is in my office. And
Oh yeah, true.
Kept
How many weapons do you have in your office?
security, safes and locks and you name it. And so here's a cool book from the 60s. This is Captain America 100, which starts off the series from Captain America, from Tales of Suspense 99, and you go to Captain America 100. Really amazing cover, and it's a 9.8. It's a pedigree copy. It's from the Boston collection. It's also QES certified. QES is a company that we created because oftentimes the numeric grades on a book don't give you the complete picture. So when something is really exceptional for the grade it's in, whether it be a 2.0 or a 9.8, we give it a QES. If you want to pay for that service, you can get a QES graded. The other thing I should mention, which is important for people to know, if you buy comic books using a numeric scale here, my partner Stephen Fischler created that scale. That's his gift to the comic book community. The 1 through 10 scale was created by Metropolis. So just so people know that, that's something we're quite proud of, and it's not something we ever patented or trademarked or anything. Yeah, I can show you Superman.
Oh, ask and you shall receive. AW.
Here's Superman #14. This is the classic, iconic Shield cover, the patriotic Shield cover. This is just one of the most memorable comic book covers of all time. It's beautiful, and it makes you kind of proud to be an American.
America. I think we're going to give Veve Magic a heart attack. She hasn't been good help lately.
So let me see. What else can I show you guys? Got a couple of other things here. Bear with me. Oh, yeah. So if you guys love Stan Lee, who doesn't? Here's the first time Stan Lee ever wrote in a comic book, and he did a story that is all words. There's no drawings. That's not a comic book story, but it's a story nonetheless. It's his first published work in Captain America #3. You can see a very early Red Skull there, yeah, it's really cool. I think it's Red Skull's first cover, right? Isn't that his first cover? I think it might be his first. I think #1 has Adolf Hitler getting knocked out. #2 has Adolf Hitler getting knocked out, and this might be the first Red Skull cover, unless he's in #2.
We've been waiting for that on Veve, the Captain America. Yeah, that's insane.
Well, here's a book that I definitely know. I think was on Veve, right?
Yeah, love that one.
Here. So the cool thing that ties in, you have that character Echo, right? That they're making a show on, and David Mack was created Echo. So, and he did that cover for us. Yeah, so it's really cool. And here we got Daredevil #1.
Yeah, Daredevil will be in that for a bit. I think on Echo, I forget the storyline. Either Jessica Jones was kidnapped, and either that was on Daredevil, or this seems obviously more focused on Echo and Kingpin. You see, he's got the eye. Did you watch the Hawkeye series?
I loved it.
Oh, it was great, right?
Yeah, really loved it. I loved the feel of it. I loved the actress Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, she's great. I love her.
She's
her and Yelena.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I thought the fight with Kingpin was ridiculous. She should have had a million broken bones in her body. But
Yeah.
I love that she took on the Kingpin at the finale. Um, uh, yeah, what was that?
I said spoilers, Vincent.
Oh, sorry. Wow, that's serious. You know what? If you haven't watched it yet, tough noogies on you.
Yeah.
You should have watched it already. It's only like, I don't know, a year old already. So I'm saving some of the big dogs for last, but here's a really cool book. This is Detective Comics 27. By the way, everybody, if you're interested in learning more about my companies, metropoliscomics.com, comicconnect.com. Comic Connect, we have an upcoming event auction that's going to be starting, I think, this week, and we'll be ending the second week of December. And we have so many great books. We also have incredible original art, video games, pulps, VHS tapes, and audio cassettes, graded audio cassettes, which are really cool, and tons of comic books. So you should definitely check out comicconnect.com, and you can also check out metropoliscomics.com. And if you're looking for a special addiction gift, theaddiction.co, don't forget. So this is Batman's first appearance, Detective Comics 27. And what makes this even more special, this is Bob Kane's personal copy.
Oh.
So the co-creator of Batman, Bob Kane, Bill Finger, this is his copy. And you'll notice that they have book ring punch holes here. He had these all in a spiral book.
Wow.
And so
How'd you get that?
Client of mine consigned it to me, and it can be yours for $750,000. So
if someone were to give you that right now, you'd accept?
oh yeah, 2 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's for sale.
So when you go and you get when you go and you get that, when you go and say, okay, I can do stuff with this money, what would you do with that money?
Well, it would be a commission for me based because somebody owns it. But what I do with money, I guess you could say, you know, from the comic book business that I have, I've been able to design a lifestyle. I don't look at the money I make as earning a living. I think of it as designing a lifestyle. And I think you can do that with any budget that you have, any type of. Thank you, Bill. That's very kind of you. No matter how much money you're making, you should think about it. What do you want your life to be like and about? So for me, I love to travel. I love food, and I love comic books. So I take those things and I kind of figure out how to make that part of my life. And one of the things I did with the money I've earned over the years is this. I didn't know if we were going to make money on this, lose money on this, but I knew I had to do this. There was something inside of me that I had a story to tell, and it was really worth it. And look, somebody just wrote, Vincent is living the human dream. That's very kind of you to say, but I think we all should think about that. And I don't want to get too preachy here, but we all have a very finite time on this world. We're not guaranteed anything other than the very moment we're living in, the present, right? We don't know what tomorrow is going to be about. We don't know what's going to happen to us. But the point being is to really live life with passion and to enjoy your life. I mean, you only, as far as we know, you only have one. I'm buying more addiction comes just because he showed me this awesome. Oh, that's very nice, Bill. Thanks. Thanks. We appreciate you supporting us. That's very kind of you. I'm going to show you guys one more cool book, and then I'm going to show you some artwork around the office. This is Superman #1. So I don't have an Action Comics #1 here right now. I'm sorry about that, but I do have a Superman #1. And so Action Comics #1 is the first Superman appearance from 1938, June 1938. And it was so popular that it creates this cottage industry where they need more superheroes, but they give Superman his own self-titled comic book. And this is a really nice one. It's very iconic. Again, you notice like the similarity. Batman #1 has a yellow background. Superman #1 has a yellow background. This one retells the first 4 stories from Action Comics. So incredibly important. To me, this is like, that's what I do with my money. I buy collectibles and I invest in them. I also do have bought some homes that I investment properties. So I believe in diversifying as well. And I think that's something that, again, at any budget range that you have, don't put all your eggs in one basket, is a saying you've heard your whole life. Don't. You know. So
I made that face because I put 95% of my net worth into the Akomi ecosystem, mostly the Omi token, but then obviously a bunch of stuff on Veve as well. After talking with David and after seeing the sheer force of will of the Veve community, and knowing, you know, they gross, let's say, like 3 million a month, and knowing that they're growing by 200%, while other places that sell NFTs like OpenSea just cut their staff in half or by 75%. After learning all that, how much, or you don't have to say how much, but did you put a decent amount in the Omi token, or did you decide to be like, hey, I'm gonna just buy?
I'm a Veve man.
All right, just buy the Veve instead. Okay.
So let me show you guys some cool stuff here that I think you'll get a kick out of. So this is some of my original art collection, and just to give you a perspective, like this piece is my favorite cover that I own. That's the cover to Amazing Adventures number 11 by Gil Kane and Bill Everett. Bill Everett, the creator of Submariner. And this is the first time you see the furry beast. Beast has been changed into a furry beast. And here is a really cool piece. This is the first page with Electro in it by Steve Ditko from Amazing Spider-Man number 9. You can see Electro down here.
I was just rewatching The Amazing Spider-Man 2 recently. So.
Yeah. This is a piece I just bought that I really love by an artist named Ryan Brown. I just think this is incredible. The color, the detail, the definition. If you like Frank Miller, there's a page from Wolverine miniseries from 1982. Here's the splash page. This is actually the first time Wolverine says, "I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do best isn't very nice." So that's the first time he ever says that. And that was kind of like his catchphrase for a while. This is one of my favorite pieces. It's by Mark Texiera, Wolverine 67. Is a John Byrne page from the X-Men, I think 140. If you like, anybody out there likes Todd McFarlane, here's one of his, I think one of his best covers, Amazing Spider-Man 323. Just to give you some perspective, this cover is probably worth about $500,000. And this is a cool piece by Tradd Moore. I really like Tradd Moore's art. I think it's really cool. And there's tons of other artwork everywhere in my office. And this is kind of my little fun stuff over here, little toys, action figures. I can show you something really cool. This is kind of neat. So I got to meet Mike Tyson, and as he was signing this box, which I cut out an area for him to sign, somebody called his attention. So you can see he signed half of it on the plastic. I'll never sell this, but it's a great story. I was thrilled to meet him. By the way, I shook his hand, and his hands were gigantic.
Yeah, it's like one.
He's not much taller than, he's not really much taller than me, maybe an inch taller than me, but he's like twice the size of me.
Yeah, he's like 5'11" and just.
Yeah, his hands were like the thing. That, like the Thing's hands, like giant rocks. And I remember shaking his hand, and silly me, I went, boy, I'd hate to get punched by this guy. I can't even imagine. And then here's just some other just kind of fun stuff that I have. I collect what I like. There's a picture of me and Stan Lee back here. You can see it right there. That's from a bunch of years ago. And I don't, not everything I have is going to be super valuable or anything like that. Hey, have you all seen Thor Ragnarok? Do you remember the scene where Dr. Banner is in the Grandmaster's pleasure ship and he's trying to escape from Sakaar, and they're shooting at him, and he's like, "Where are the lasers?" And he starts pressing all these buttons. Well, this is the control panel from the movie, and I had my framer hook it up. And this is when he presses the button. So I try to have fun with this stuff, and this is some cool stuff. This is a piece by Frank Frazetta. It's a famous Funnies cover, and it's a underwater octopus cover. That cover, just to give you some perspective in terms of value, this cover's probably worth somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so there's a ton more stuff. I'll show you a couple of other cool things that are near and dear to my heart. If anybody ever saw Captain America: The First Avenger, there's a scene with this cosmic cube.
That's right.
That's the cosmic cube from Captain America: The First Avenger, and I love this thing. This is just so cool.
Did you see the Captain Marvel from a few years back?
Yeah.
Where it had the Flurkin that ate it.
The what?
The Flurkin, the
oh yeah, the cat.
Yeah. It's I'm seeing the second one next week. I can't wait.
I'm excited about that one. I have to tell you, I didn't love the first one, but I really love the characters for the second one. I love the Kamala Khan. I think she's great. I love that show.
Oh, that last episode where your genes are like mutated, and they had that. When I tell you, I screamed like nobody's business.
It's really cool. I think it captures that kind of same feeling of like when you see Peter Parker get his powers for the first time and he's learning how to do stuff. I think it's very similar to that. I'll show you some other cool stuff. If you're an Andy Warhol fan, that is a Dennis Hopper Polaroid taken by Andy Warhol. And over here, if you're a Bruce Lee fan, which I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan, this is Bruce Lee's first and only signed movie contract. And it's for a 3-picture deal from 1971 with Golden Harvest, Raymond Chow signing it as well as Bruce Lee. He got paid $20,000 a film, and it's for Chinese Connection, Way of the Dragon, and The Big Boss. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then if you, I don't know if they've dropped this on Veve, but this is the Black Panther #1 by Mark Texiera. And there's just
we have a couple of one-offs that are just one-of-ones. I think the Hulk that you have, the one where it's like half his face. Yeah, I think that one is on Veve as a one-of-one.
I don't think that's actually published. So it's just a piece I bought recently. I think it should be published. I'm going to actually pitch it to Marvel to publish it, but I don't think that's it. I have one other really cool thing right here, which I think you guys will get a kick out if I can frame it right. Do you see that piece? Those are Harry Houdini's handcuffs.
No freaking way.
They're like over 100 years old.
Oh my God.
How cool is that, huh?
That's a ton of history in this room. That's incredible.
So, look, I'm really into pop culture. I love comic books. I love all aspects. I also studied art, and I love Renaissance art. I love contemporary art. I'm not just relegated to comic books, but the point being is I am drawing on different parts of my life to make the addiction as interesting as possible. And it's been such a fun project for me, and having a great team around me, having my partner David, having Andrew Mondo, is like, the guy's like a genius, is in every aspect of what he does is like just beautiful and great, and he's really been wonderful getting me more comfortable with Twitter, which is not with X, which I just was not a big user of X, and now I think it's the best platform we have to promote the addiction, and a lot of that is obviously because of the work he's done with you guys and the contests that he's created. Which, by the way, if anybody's out there listening who entered the contest, the first contest, which was to make an addiction cover, an art contest, and the second one was like maybe to make villains. You guys did such a great job, so much creativity, and even whether you used your own original art or AI or however you did it, you had to put a lot of effort into that. And I thank you so much, because I never dreamed, a couple of months ago, that anybody would be doing fan art for our comic book. It's like just so cool. So I thank you all so much. It's just been like, again, I can't really put into words. Like, there were many moments at New York Comic Con where I got very choked up, and I had to pull back tears, and a couple times I didn't really pull them back. I had tears streaming down my face, because again, this was really important to me to make something that would get into people's hands, that they would hopefully enjoy. And yeah, so thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say, Vibesman. Um, it's not something I take for granted. I want issue number 2 and issue number 3 to be as coveted, as popular, as enjoyable. And I think personally, Claudia's artwork in issue number 2 gets better, because I think she's gotten more comfortable with the character, and she's really. I just love the pages with Mr. Licorice, and she loved it too. So like, look, there's sometimes when an artist gets hired to do a job, and it's just a job for them, and they got to draw it, they got to make their money for the month. But with Claudia, she really loved what she was working on, and that's what we wanted. We wanted people who were passionate, like we are, about this character, about this world that we're creating, about the story. And I think it comes through in the work. And even like Brad Simpson, this colorist who's been around forever. Here I am, a guy who's never made a comic book, but I do feel like I have a good sense of art, and for art and for color. And I'm also surrounded by a lot of very talented people who I'm able to tap on the shoulder and ask for opinions. But Brad really like hit it out of the ballpark, and there were only like little subtle things where he said, "Hey, can you change this? Can you tweak that?" And he worked so well. And same thing with Dave Sharp, just kind of trying to really bring across what we wanted to convey through the lettering, which is not something I ever thought about as a reader. I just thought, oh, lettering, cool, wham, pow, whatever it is. But with this, it was really, really something else. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can show you guys that I think you'd get a kick out of. Let me see. I'll take you through a little stroll through the gallery. There's a lot of artwork around, and I'll take you down that hallway in a second. But right over my head, if you see there, those are pages by Alex Ross from Marvels. So that's Galactus fighting Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four.
Speaking of which, I have something to show you.
Oh, okay.
Let me go and make this a little widescreen. You brought up Alex Ross, who I love. So at San Diego Comic-Con last year, I happened to get, this is like one of 350, I think, or one of 450.
I think I saw that. That is really awesome. Oh my God. Yeah. Didn't they have like a giant version of that where you could take a picture with it?
They did.
Yeah.
And it was, and that was like the how they like showed it off, and like, oh, you can get yours, and this is, I got the number. I specifically asked for the number 41, just in case we get them on TV one day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. VV 41. Yeah, right on. So that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I love Alex's work. He's really great. I'm going to show you a couple of other things that are really cool. Though, right over my shoulder, that is a page from X-Men #1. So that is from 1963. Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, X-Men #1. Over here, here, and here. Is that where I'm looking at right? Yeah. These are pages from Journey into Mystery 83, which is the first appearance of Thor 1, 2, and 3. And then above, up here, let's see, can we get that? That's a page from Daredevil #1 right there.
I
And
like how they showed in She-Hulk that, he had his original yellow suit. I
yep,
was like, oh, this is cool. This is
yep,
legit.
excellent stuff. And that's Avengers #1 with Thor fighting Loki. And let's see what else can I show you. Oh, here's the cover to Spidey 301 by Todd McFarlane. That's kind of cool.
It's a cool pose.
Likes Todd McFarlane. Oh, you mentioned Ghost Rider before. There's the artwork to Ghost Rider #1.
Sweet.
And above it, Marvel Team Up #1. And it's just, there's so many cool pieces. Let's see, maybe like over here is Carmen Infantino on Flash. Bernie Wrightson. And if anybody's a big comic book fan and knows Swamp Thing, this is probably one of the most important pieces in our office. This is House of Secrets '92, the first Swamp Thing. That's the original art.
I love Swamp Thing. I really underrated, and I think I think that's one of the things that James Gunn's doing for DC is like they're doing a Swamp Thing movie.
Well, there were 2 movies I think in the '80s, and then there was a TV series, but they apparently it got canceled because the accountant forgot a zero in somewhere in the budget, and they went over budget by a lot. Here's a Jack Kirby Fantastic Four page right here with Galactus and Silver Surfer. That's really important piece. You can kind of see that. Sorry, my camera work is really garbage with this.
Oh no, this is fine.
And here's a Frazetta oil painting of a barbarian. Yeah, that's probably over $1 million. Here's Neil Adams on Batman. Steve Ditko on Captain Atom, really cool. Jack Kirby, Human Torch pinup. If you guys like movies, there's Abbott and Costello.
Do you have Swamp Thing VHS tapes?
I don't think I have one of those in stock right now. No, that's a pretty cool idea. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, by the way, I mean, we also have behind this wall there's over 200,000 vintage comic books. So it's kind of like listen. I've been partners in Metropolis. Wow, next year will be 25 years. And every day I feel like a kid. I come in here and it's like Christmas. It's pretty cool. Christmas morning. What's going to come in next? And I feel very blessed and fortunate. I don't take this for granted. Just to give you some perspective, I used to sell dollar comic books. And when I got out of St. John's University, I used to drive into Manhattan and set up 2 card tables and 8 boxes of books and sell comic books on the streets of Manhattan. I built up my business from there. And that was 93. And 99, I merged companies with Steve, and we've been partners ever since. And so, it's been a long road. There's been always a lot of challenges when you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and now a creator and publisher, which is kind of weird, but it's very exciting. And I wouldn't be able to be doing this, and I wouldn't be here having this interview if it wasn't for the Veve community. Again, I say it over and over again because I really want you guys to understand how much this means to me. To be part of this community, to be welcomed by the community, I don't take that lightly, and I really want to make sure that we live up to what you guys need and expect and want from us in terms of quality of story, in terms of fun, and in terms of being able to deliver. I also want to thank everybody real quickly. If you placed an order on our website, we wrote on the site 3 weeks because I was heading out of town after New York Comic Con. I just needed to get a little bit of a break and recharge my battery, and it worked. I did. Thank you very much. And so, but we're shipping out the comic books. We spent the entire morning this morning pulling everything, signing books. We're waiting on just in case anybody ordered an Art Germ no trade dress or virgin cover, as they're called. If you did order one of those, Some of that stuff got damaged in transit, and we're waiting for replacements. So we will contact people that we have a postponement on the delivery, but we should have those hopefully in the next week or two. And I do apologize for the delays. I know when I'm eager to get something in the mail, it stinks when it doesn't get there in a timely fashion. So I do apologize, but I hope it'll be worth the wait, and you'll enjoy the comic book when you get it. And again, can't thank you enough for me, for my entire team, from Mondo. Thank you all so very much for everything you've done for us. And I can't wait for you guys to see the rest of the story. And I really hope it puts a big smile on your face.
Thank you for being here. We are at the 2-hour mark. I do want to talk to you for like 1 or 2 minutes off camera. So I'll end the stream here, and then we'll just have that on there. All right, everyone say bye to Dashi.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye,
for
Dashi.
Meow, meow.
Meow, meow.